Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, I'm Vincent McCory and the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
The Kaduna State Agricultural Development Agency has advised ginger farmers to opt for crop rotation as an alternative to this year's wet farming season owing to the scarcity of new seedlings. This comes in the wake of the outbreak of fungal disease that ravaged many ginger farms in Kaduna State and two other states last year.
Kaduna is the largest ginger-producing state in Nigeria, contributing to Nigeria's position as the highest exporter of ginger in Africa and third largest globally. Unfortunately, in 2023, ginger farmers in Kaduna State suffered huge post-harvest losses amounting to over 10 billion naira as a result of the ginger blight epidemic that hit many farms. A national task force was set up by the federal government to combat the epidemic in 3 states, in addition to the launching of the 1.6 billion naira intervention fund to assist the affected farmers.
Now we have settled the research to really find out which one do we treat. Is it the soil or the seed or both? They are working on that seriously, and I'm sure the result will be out very soon.
With the wet season farming around the corner, the general manager of the Kaduna Agricultural Development Agency is urging the ginger farmers to consider crop rotation due to scarcity of new ginger seedlings.
The major consensus at the moment is to embark on crop rotation. And crop rotation, we are putting up maize, rice, and other value chain considerations. But ginger, we don't even have the seed. That is the problem.
This proposal does not go down well with the National Ginger Association of Nigeria, which has a different idea about how to mitigate the problem.
The issue of crop rotation should not arise. Why? Because people who planted ginger on a virgin plot of land were equally affected. For me, what we should do, and what I am trying to do as a president of the National Ginger Association, is to get seeds from farmers who collected from us and went to plant in Osun, Nasarawa, Benue, Zamfara, Kebbi. I have reached out to them. We will take it and we will plant it in fresh soil that has not been planted. And I believe that should work.
If the federal government said that this year we should go for crop rotation, definitely is going to affect a lot of people in the community because this ginger farming is what our people are living on.
Nigeria's market value in ginger production in 2023 was estimated at $1.6 billion and has been projected to reach about $6.20 billion by 2024. But its global position is now shaky as a result of the blight epidemic that will impact on this year's wet season farming. Nevertheless, ginger farmers are advocating for a more comprehensive solution, labeling the intervention fund as insufficient.
1.6 billion is just to allow the farmers produce food for themselves. But if you are going to invest that in proper, mechanized, strategized farming, it won't take us out of the woods, but we will not be the way we will be by next season.
These farmers are also concerned about the delayed release of the 1.6 billion naira recovery package to those affected, particularly with the planting season approaching.
Joining us to discuss crop rotation as an alternative to seedlings for ginger farmers is the President, National Ginger Association of Nigeria, Gagarin Madaki. A warm welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, so ginger farmers suffered huge post-harvest losses last year as a result of the blight, the epidemic that ravaged several farms in Kaduna State, in Plateau State, and Nasarawa State. Give us an insight into this disease.
Well, essentially, what happened was that it started out sometime mid into the farming season, where the leaves were turning from green going towards brown, and it was eventually envisaged that what had happened was that something else had affected it. And we have deduced, after taking our audit of the farms, some were not affected, some were affected. From those affected, what we could see that they used was a new cheap fertilizer that was introduced. We think that helped speed up the virus, the fungal effect, which the Institute identified as Fusarium pythium, and that sped it up and then affected it.
And the federal government has rolled out 1.6 billion naira intervention program to support the affected farmers. Give us an evaluation of this program and the fate of Nigeria as Nigeria's global position as a result of the epidemic.
Well, I will start by saying that, well, it was a good thing the government stepped up, but unfortunately, that 1.6 billion, as at now as we speak, is going to ginger farmers, but not for ginger farming. You see, what they are saying is that the institute that is researching this Fusarium pythium says there are about over 100 strains of it, and they're not sure which strain it is now, and they will require time up to like maybe July or August to be able to identify the exact strain. This is what I've been told, and that by then the farming season would have passed. So since the farmers are not hungry, rather than leave them out there while they are waiting for this result, let them intervene by giving them this 1.6 billion, and then they go into maize, rice, and soya beans, other crops for survival. But I disagree. This is not the most effective thing they can do. That's the truth.
And be that as it may, in the light of all you've said, what kind of engagement do you think the government should be having with the farmers?
You see, if you were to take that 1.6 billion and put it into strategically designed, put it into mechanized farming, mechanize the process. The process is still, a lot of it is still archaic. But if you can mechanize it, use your tractors, you plow, your harrow, and we don't have enough ginger planters, so the farmers would have to be involved in the planting.
Right. Thank you so much for your time and for that insight into the situation. National President of the Ginger Association of Nigeria, Gagarin Madaki, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, Nigerian authorities take a fresh look at the mining industry as a way to boost diversity to the economy. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. After years of focus on oil and gas, Nigerian authorities are taking a new look at the mining industry as part of their drive to diversify the economy. But the country is still reeling from environmental damage caused by old mining operations and the illegal mining that continues. Timothy Obiezu reports.
Phoebe Gang has been illegally digging for 3 years to find one of central Nigeria's most precious minerals, tin. This is one site out of many in Plateau State where thousands of locals are trying to make quick cash by mining. Gang says she makes about $15 a week and it's worth all the risk.
If government don't want us to do it, then let's provide something for us. Let's provide food or job for us, because we cannot just fold our hand like that and be watching.
When found, the tin is washed and separated from the sand. It is then weighed, bought, smelted, and sold to larger companies for use primarily in electronics. Nigeria has rich deposits of more than 40 different minerals, according to the country's Geological Survey Agency, and the government wants to increase its mining operations. But farmer Emmanuel Simon says he's still suffering from mines that used to operate in the region.
Tun muna yara ake yin Since we were kids, they started tin mining in our village, and our farmland has been destroyed. We no longer farm in those areas, and even if we did, we won't get any harvest, no matter how much fertilizer we applied. We won't get anything.
The wells created by the digging are often not covered and sometimes turn into large gullies that make farming impossible. Abandoned mining ponds also pose danger to locals, especially children. Between September and October last year, more than 30 people died in mining sites in the area, according to the Plateau Indigenous Miners Association. But authorities like Peter Gwom, Plateau State's Commissioner for Environment, Climate Change and Mineral Development, say the country wants to take advantage of the demand for Nigerian minerals.
There's been a resurgence of mining again globally, not just here on the plateau. Demand globally has spiked due to this particular minerals used to build, the new things that we use in the world today, especially our computers, phones, vehicles, batteries, and so on. And that's why we see it's almost like a gold rush. So many people are coming here.
Gwom says any new mining licenses will come with agreements to minimize environmental damage and create value by ensuring companies set up processing facilities here in Nigeria. Authorities are also trying to bring the illegally operating small miners back under the rule of law.
The government is looking at, we don't want to address them anymore as illegal miners. We're looking at them as artisanal miners, and we're bunching them into cooperatives and giving them the needed tools for them to be able to mine in a safe manner.
In the meantime, people like Gyang say they will continue their illegal search for tin and the money to keep their families housed and fed. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria.
The governor of Adamawa State, Umaru Fintiri, has described the school-based management committees as a very vital component in the development of basic education aimed at ensuring the reduction of the number of out-of-school children, as well as the development of infrastructure in hard-to-reach areas in the state. He made this disclosure during the disbursement of funds by the World Bank-funded Global Partnership for Education.
It's the official flag off and distribution of the first phase of GPE grant of 37 million naira for the construction and rehabilitation of 23 selected public schools across Adamawa State. Governor Umaru Fintiri is represented by his deputy, Professor Tapwa Farauta, who arrives at the venue where members of the schools-based management committees, education secretaries of the 21 local government areas, Federal Ministry of Education and World Bank officials are already gathered. The Commissioner of Education and Human Capital Development sets the tone for the event.
The GP school grant is a special grant that is meant to turn around the infrastructural base of our school. New structures to be built of 3 classrooms with wash materials, while 15 renovations in schools.
In her remarks, the Deputy Governor cautions members of the School-Based Management Committee to pay proper attention to the facilities being provided.
We are not just putting our monies in education because we do not have other things to do. We are putting our monies in education because the new and the greater Adamawa State belongs to our next generations, whom we are raising by educating them properly.
The GPE school grant is a special funding to turn around the infrastructural base of schools, reduce the number of out-of-school children, develop infrastructure in hard-to-reach areas, and improve basic education.
As we are about to witness the transformational change of schools infrastructure that are underserved and are hard to reach, and in the rural areas that have been selected and prioritized either for construction or rehabilitation, and are to be provided with basic amenities.
Professor Farauta hands over the symbolic checks to the local government SBMC chairman for the 4-year grant, which is expected to contribute to the overall development of the basic education in the state.
Farmers in South Africa's red meat industry are excited to resume exporting beef and lamb to Saudi Arabia after a long hiatus. Kate Bartlett reports from a ranch outside Johannesburg that stands to benefit from the new trade partnership.
The beef from some of the more than 150,000 South African cows on this feedlot outside Johannesburg is destined for diners many miles away in Saudi Arabia. That's after South Africa did a deal with the kingdom, which this year became a new member of the BRICS Plus group of emerging economies, which already includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and presents itself as an alternative to the Western-led global order.
So Saudi Arabia is firstly a very big market for protein generally. They are the largest consumer in the Gulf. So South Africa has just been accredited and various factories have been accredited. So this is very exciting for South Africa. The rest of the BRICS countries, we currently don't export to many of them. We don't export to Russia. We don't export to Brazil. We don't export to India.
Karen Beef, one of South Africa's biggest beef producers, does export to China, but does business primarily with Gulf countries, and new partner Saudi Arabia's protein market is worth some $2 billion. Until now, South Africa has been banned from exporting to the oil-rich kingdom for more than 20 years, ever since an outbreak of foot and mouth disease, said Wendile Silobo, chief economist at the Agricultural Business Chamber of South Africa.
Countries that have dominated the Saudi market includes the likes of the US, South America, you see them there. And now South Africa will be joining those countries. And I think that given that our exports have been progressively growing over time, Saudi Arabia offers new opportunities for expansion.
Devolt Olivier, CEO of Red Meat Industry Services, says trade with China involves logistical hurdles, while the EU market is difficult to break into. Most of South Africa's beef goes to the domestic market, with exports accounting for only around 4%. So a new customer like Saudi Arabia is important.
If you look at the Saudi Arabian market, they consume 2.4 million tons of red meat per annum. That's the 2024 forecast.
And Olivia says the deal is already opening other doors in the BRICS Plus grouping.
What we've seen was that on the back of Saudi Arabia opening up to us, we've had discussions immediately with Iran.
Increased exports should have a positive effect on South Africa's flailing economy and high unemployment rates. Kate Bartlett, VOA News, Johannesburg.
A women's anti-poaching group known as Black Mamba is leading the fight against wildlife crime by insisting on conservation and community involvement in South Africa. Black Mamba says its campaign stems from deep concerns for poaching and genuine love for animals.
Women in formal uniforms drive a vehicle looking for evidence of poaching activities. On a mission to make poaching a thing of the past, they examine tire tracks on the ground and take photographs of clues.
The mission and vision of the Black Mambas is to make the Greater Kruger a hard place for poachers to poach and also engage with kids in the community via using knowledge and education.
They come upon some wires and animal skulls, which signify someone or persons set a trap for animals in that vicinity.
The daily challenge that we come across is when we found a snare with an animal that has been killed by a snare. It is so challenging because it's like we have lost an animal through wiring.
Game Ranger Sergeant Malungani Naledi is convinced that there's so much more to do as an anti-poaching enthusiast in order to preserve wildlife for future generations.
I really want the future generation to only know about the rhino only on magazine, TVs, or newspapers.
Impressed with the notable decline in poaching incidents since the Black Mamba's formation, a local voices his optimism about the unit's ability to combat poaching.
I believe that poaching incidents will continue to drop.
What is more exciting is that women are taking part in reducing this crime of poaching, which is male-dominated.
This all-female anti-poaching unit of 36 African women patrols 20,000 hectares in the Greater Kruger National Park, home to a significant rhino population. They prioritize removing wire snares used by poaching gangs and conduct conservation education in local schools through their Bush Babies outreach program.
For most pregnant women in the slums of Nairobi, ultrasound services are an affordable luxury. Now, a Kenyan healthcare business is using portable, low-cost ultrasound systems to give expectant mothers a chance to see their babies and detect any health problems before the delivery day. Victoria Munga reports from Nairobi.
Sophia Amida is looking at her fetus for the first time at this clinic in Kenya's Mukuru kwa Ruben slum. Amida is due in a few weeks. She says getting an ultrasound is critical for her because her first baby was delivered by cesarean section.
They could not tell how the baby was positioned. At the time of my delivery, the baby was still way up and was not moving down at all, so I had to go for surgery.
For most women in Kenyan slums, often called informal settlements, this type of medical technology is out of reach. One session can cost as much as $60. But with a relatively new ultrasound device called a butterfly probe, patients like Amida can get an ultrasound for just $10. The device is designed by the US-based health tech company Butterfly Network. The probe can connect to a tablet or a mobile phone, making it portable and easy to use for sonographers like Alfred Kibet.
It enables you to reduce the cost of doing ultrasound, because you see with the other traditional machines, ultrasound machines, they are quite expensive, and again the other components involved, like you need a printer, a special printer. But with this, you can just store the images, and then you can print with a regular printer.
Healthcare companies like Access Afya are partnering to provide the devices to clinics, especially in densely populated areas. The goal is to close the gap of affordable healthcare, says Access Afya's finance director, Danny McCabe.
They don't need to be focused on how do I get a payback immediately on this machine, and be focused on, hey, how do I make the highest price possible for these machines? You can be focused on providing the best level of care and then working with us to make sure there's enough foot traffic here to make sure that at the end of the day, everyone's able to make their money back on the machine.
Kenya has among the world's highest rates of maternal deaths according to UN figures. Nurse midwife Millie Karina says ultrasounds can help to detect and avert most difficulties at birth, like when a woman is carrying twins.
Sometimes I've found that we're in labor with a mom, but we didn't know there were two. We thought it was one, but there are two. So that can complicate things a little bit for the mom, not knowing. Number two, mothers have lost pregnancies because the placenta was insufficient. And something that could have been picked up really early, but unfortunately, it happens.
Kenyan healthcare providers believe that lower costs of medical technologies like ultrasound will help to lower infant and maternal death. Victoria Amunga, VOA News, Nairobi.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.